Okay, today's mystery tune. You guys got that? Some of the old timers might. And it's not this. Let me think. Wait. There it is. Okay, well, one's been requested on the site. The first one I don't think has. Speaking of requests, well, wait, here it is. It's March 21st. I've got, I'm getting through this in 15 minutes or less. I've even have looked at the clock, including Wiley's clock. I gotta show you guys this. It's so cool having, I showed it to you a little while ago, but he sent a stand. Wiley, all the best to you. Hope things are going well, man. And thanks again for the clock. And hope to see you at camp. I'm going to talk about camp a little bit. I'm going to talk about songs. I'm going to talk about my top 5, my historic top 5. And then, of course, changing the channel. Not changing the channel, because some great tunes came up. Roads to Moscow. Great choice there. Al's tunes. And yes, of my top 5, one of them is one of Al's. And it is You're the Cat. I think I confess to that. Because that was really the first one of his I heard, or the first one that grabbed me. I sort of lived under a rock from about 72 to 78 maybe. Yeah, and missed a lot of stuff. When Hotel California came out, I was not listening to the radio. Had no idea what the Eagles were doing in those days, which was about 74 maybe. Anyway, but I was just wrapped up in playing a lot of classical stuff with my buddy John Dimmick. So I was just not tuned into the radio back in those days. Let's see. Okay, I have a lot of things I want to talk about. The mystery song. By the way, the mystery song from last week, I gave you a hint. Chariots of Fire was the hint. And I played it right at the beginning of the lesson, and it had to do with a request that had just shown up on the request a lesson list. Okay, I will tell you the band. Yeah, it's still there. Anyway, the band was Aphrodite's Child. That's enough. I know, way too obscure to even be talking about. But that's probably, I'll probably giving you way too much information. I bet everybody has the answer now to not only what song it was, but what was the weird connection. You can go wiki this and have the answer. You probably have it by now, if you care. Let's see. Top 5. I'm going to get to that later. I'm going to talk about modulating. I'm going to talk about the IGC. I'm going to talk about house concerts. That's all coming up on the agenda. I'm going to blast through the songs that we did this week. Thanks to Vanessa for another Taylor Swift song. I Knew You Were Trouble. Okay, so everybody, I think we've maybe run the course with those. We'll see. I know she's got a great lesson on tap for next week. Something that one of my students has been working on, as a matter of fact, Cindy. And some of Cindy's lessons have actually turned into TG lessons because of things she's working on. She's kind of a beginning student, but so we work on simplified versions of some things that can be fairly complicated. We looked at the Everly Brothers, Cathy's Clown, and we looked at, oh, is my capo handy? This was fun because, don't have my favorite picks. I'm going to have to go green here. Oh no, I'm going to go with a Lady Sharks pick. I'll tell you more about this later. Maybe. A little bit of playing around with different keys in that, because it's in the key of C, and all of a sudden he hits that E minor chord and brings in an F sharp. Leaning towards another key, not modulating, not establishing the other key. We still never feel like E minor or G has taken over. So that's kind of the deal. I guess I'm going to answer this question right now since it sort of applies. And this came up about Bonnie Raitt's tune that we, something to talk about. It's in A flat, but it uses chords from D flat. Does it modulate to D flat? Absolutely not, because we never feel like D flat is where we're going to come home to rest, to resolve the tension. But at the end though, it definitely modulates up to B, because we feel at that point, once it's gone to B, A flat is not feeling like home anymore. And that's the key to changing keys. So you can write songs and use chords from other keys or borrowed from nearby keys without saying you're actually in that other key. So that's kind of the deal with the Bonnie Raitt tune. And that happens in Into the Mystic. Okay, we also had, oh boy, let me think. And as you know, that one has been kicking around here for a couple of years now, and I think I mentioned in the lesson, one of the reasons it got so delayed was I kept thinking, I'm not going to do that song until I can put together a cool lesson on the solo version. Well, that was just becoming an obstacle, and I decided, you know what, just put the song out, let's get started with that. The instrumental version will follow somewhere down the line, except every time I play that, it's just completely improvised. Anyway, glad I finally got to it, but we may have to follow that up more a little bit later. Okay, let's see. Mystery song, I went through that. Quick IGC news. I sent out emails to everybody who's registered. So if you're registered for the IGC and you did not get an email from me, I heard back from everybody I sent one out to that was on my list, except for about 4 people. So so check your email, check your spam for a message from me, because I want to be putting out information earlier as time goes on. Speaking of which, also a little follow-up on Dave Nachmanoff. We had a few thanks to Lynn, not only for hosting the concert, but for eavesdropping on it and letting us be a little fly on the wall there. And so she sent me a few videos, or I think we have 1 or 2 more to come there. I think there's like 5 or 6 different ones from there. And it's pretty cool to see Dave in action in such an informal thing where it's actually his show rather than Al's show. He's of course spectacular at Al's shows anyway. And as kind of along the lines of hosting a house concert is a really easy thing to do, because people like Dave travel around the country all the time. Jim Page, who was here last couple of years ago, is somebody else that does this, and they're just traveling musicians that play small places all around the country and kind of have a real grassroots following. Now, I just heard from Wiley that anybody in his part of Texas that would like, sometime in May, Dave is going to be doing a house concert there. And I wore my Wiley shirt. Wiley has a shirt kind of like this, by the way, in case you're wondering. You don't see this one too often, but I bring it out when I'm thinking about Wiley, who is signed up for camp. Looking forward to seeing you again, buddy. And anyway, so Wiley's house concert coming up. If anybody is anywhere around his part of Texas in early May, oh, it's May, you know what, I remember the date now because he invited me to come, and I can't. I will be at a daughter's graduation, May 18th. The graduation's actually the 17th, but it's across an ocean, so won't be able to get to Texas the next day. Anyway, that's the news on house concerts, and really interestingly, this is something that anybody can host. You might only be able to squeeze in 20 people in your house, but they could donate enough to have a really intimate, private show with some great talent, and Dave puts on a great show, as you can tell by the couple of clips we've seen so far. And kind of indirectly, this was how I first got involved with John Renborn, because of a casual conversation with Mark Hansen, another teacher from the area who is now up north in the Northwest. It finally occurred, or popped into my head, that I could book him to do a small workshop if everybody pitched in enough to pay him for it. That's what happened. And so you've seen some of the, as a matter of fact, I think today or yesterday, sometime this week, we put up the last clip of Renborn. There's one or two little other, I think, things that are more behind the scenes, and people standing in front of the camera during times when I'm playing stuff like this. So I don't know if I put that up yet, or if I will. But luckily I did capture, what am I thinking? Oh, Pharaoh's Rag, which was the first thing I ever played for him. And that's how we sort of became friends. But so there was a camera running at the time, but there was somebody standing right in front of the camera. So if I put that up, you'll just see the back of somebody's shoulder and hear what's going on. So let me know if you think that'd be worth tracking down. I know I have it somewhere. Anyway, so we finished up our Renborn stuff. We finished, no, we didn't finish Dave. We have a little bit more for next week. And now, let's see, I've talked about everything I want to, except the top 5 thing. And yeah, some of the criteria that again, this was a list I made up probably 15 years ago, and I haven't really changed it, except for, and so other things have popped in, and that's what made me think the other day when this song came on, which I'll get to that next week, because I got to brush up on how to play it, but it is a song in the Target program, and as was it Jim suggested? It may have been Moondance, but the song is much like Moondance, but it's a lot catchier. It's not quite as snappy. It's more, it grabs you by the throat and doesn't let go. Moondance is a little more laid back. Anyway, my top list was kind of came from songs had to be commercial hits for that. So it was not really just the criteria of a great song. It was a great song that everybody knows. And so, you know, you can make arguments for all kinds of things by John Dawson Reed, or who wrote a great song that I've alluded to before. Well, you guys, same thing, let the speculation be on that. Anyway, so there are great songwriters that have done some phenomenal things. Harry Chapin is one I would throw into that category too, but he had a few hits, but he had some better songs that were not hits. Okay, mine. Okay, 2 of them are obvious, because I already mentioned one of them. Yeah, that's one. Another one, this is the one that sometimes should be, like I mentioned, there's an earlier one of theirs I like better. Uh-oh, I'm not going to remember it. Something like that. I think I played that here before. But great tune, and was pretty big on the radio. So the others, all from the same era. Yeah, that's one. The last 2, no doubt about it. Doesn't matter how many times you hear it, it's still spectacular. Part of it was because of the sweet aspect to it, the many different parts, you know, starting off soft, building up, picking it up, you know, nice little, really some great touches of transitions that really made it a medley of different songs, and well worth the 7 minutes or however long it is. And the last one is one that we heard a softened up version of 20 years later, 25 years later or so, but the original is, wow, just occurred to me. There's one guy, of course, involved in 2 of these songs. And not only that, he was also involved in part of today's mystery song, because the mystery song was from second album, I think, by somebody whose first album had a connection to the guy who's in those two songs. Okay, you probably have all that together so far. Okay, you know what? I think that's it. That's all I want to talk about today. I should probably play. What have I been messing with? Oh, I showed you a little bit of this last week because that's what my book is open. But I should look at it. Never mind. What else have I been playing? Of course, these. I think I just played this for a couple weeks ago. Let me think of something I haven't played in a long time. No, I did that one too. I'm out of pieces. I'm out of ideas. I think I'm just going to be out of here for now. More on that maybe later. Okay, see you next week.